Hi, everyone. This is Jamie Broderick. I'm joined today with Patti Dalessio of Reinvent Interactive, and she is going to be giving us all the dirt from Inbound 2015 HubSpot's conference that they have up in Boston each year. But before we get started, I thought we'd do a little celebration for her birthday.
You gonna dance for me? Very well done.
Okay.
Very well done.
Oh,
I appreciate that.
Oh, you're welcome. So now it's a party, right? So
I have to tell you, I am milking everything out of this most recent birthday. It's really worked for me. It really has.
Extended over a long period of time. Why not?
It is. You know, when you hit those birthday milestones, those 0s and 5s, you have to really, get them, accentuate those. Oh, I'm going to turn off my stuff that's going to be beeping at me. Okay. So hi. So thanks for having me, Jamie.
Absolutely. So for those of you that are new to my blabs, this is Jamie Broderick. I am the founder of Network Now, which is a global now, right, Patti?
That's right.
Networking organization. And Patti is one of our global leaders. You can find us at networknowconnections.com. We are actually just transitioning from being a local networking organization to opening it up to a global audience. So we're super excited about it. I am also a visibility and business coach, and I help my clients look like rock stars online and get found. So Patti, why don't you introduce yourself and then we'll launch into the content.
Yeah, sure. I am Patti Dalessio. I am a SEO. I do search engine optimization, inbound marketing for my clients. My company is Reinvent Interactive Inc. at reinventinteractive.com.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So for those of you new on Blab, to tell a little bird, see the little, which way? It's like opposite, but that the little blue box that says tell a little bird, you need to click that and share it with your followers if you think they would be interested in finding out about digital marketing and what's happened up at the Inbound conference that HubSpot just threw together. Yes. They had keynote speakers such as Seth Godin, Chelsea Clinton, and they even had a performance by Amy Schumer, which was worth it, probably just that alone. So also throughout the presentation, please feel free to type into the chat box if you have questions, comments, and if you like what we're saying or just want to support us, you can give us some high fives by clicking those little hands in the bottom right corner of each box. It's not an accumulated social proof kind of thing. It just tells us we're on the right track. So Patti, where do you want to start? There's so much, girl.
Oh my gosh. Okay, well, first, I guess I have an inboundy story about my birthday, okay, and how I was able to take advantage of that on social media and score myself an upgrade to a VIP pass. So the fact that this is white, it means that I was actually VIP for the conference in Boston. So the story goes like this. Inbound was happening in Boston at the same time that Search Love was happening in San Diego. And these are both really big inbound marketing, search conferences. And, it kind of seemed really weird to me why they would kind of put these, kind of at the same week. So I made this joke on Instagram where I kind of put their logos, top and bottom, showing the conference name and the dates that they kind of crossed over, and said, hey guys, I know my name is I know my birthday is a really big deal in the SEO space, but did you have to have both conferences on both coasts at the same time? So 4 or 5 weeks go by, and the next thing I know, I hear from someone at Inbound that says, hey, because it's your birthday, we're going to upgrade you to VIP, which awesome. I have to say has ruined me, because now I never want to go to this again, not being VIP, because it was really pretty amazing. I had my own entrance. I had my own lounge. I was drinking real espresso lattes where everyone else was waiting in really long lines to get Dunkin' Donuts out of I can't say how incredible it was. I got to meet some interesting people. I got to meet Brian Halligan. So anyway, it was very, very I can't say work your social media, work your inbound, put stuff out there. You never know what their marketing folks are going to do. And then, of course, what did I do in response? I thanked them up and down all over the place on Twitter and Instagram. So anyway, I was really, you can't really see, it does say VIP really tiny in the corner, but it's the fact that it's a white lanyard. So that was my, so not only was the experience great, this is also my third time attending this particular conference. And they always throw a really great party and a really great time. So so HubSpot throws a great party. They're good.
On your point of posting, like in reaching out to companies, it is a good thing to do. Peter Shankman posted something last year where he did something similar. He literally tweeted from an airplane saying how he was starving and would love to have a steak dinner from a certain restaurant. And did they not greet him at the restaurant with a steak dinner? And
at the airport. Yep. Morton's.
Amazing.
I read that. Yeah. I actually saw him speak at last year at Inbound. I know he's kind of, in the public speaking stuff. Yeah. So, the way that this conference works is you really kind of create your own schedule, because there's a ton of talks going on at the same time, right? There's a lot of speakers and you kind of have to create your own agenda. So it gets really frustrating because there's a lot of people speaking at the same time and you don't get to see everyone that you kind of go for. And there's really big lines, so you could kind of choose someone and then go stand in line and be kind of turned away. So there's been some negative feedback that, it was very crowded. There was about 14,000 people at this conference. So, getting into the talks that you want to get into, wasn't always guaranteed. So you kind of needed an A, B, and C for the different time slots. And then if there was a really great talk that you wanted to see, you can get strategic and go to the one before it in that room and just don't leave because that works too. So, on the downside, there was that. You were vying for the information that you wanted. But anyway, so I ended up seeing, if I just kind of rattle off kind of the talks that I got into. And keep in mind, I'm an SEO, so I went really looking for information that I could take away and use and and leverage, obviously. So I started off, the keynote the night before was Seth Godin.
Who you met in line, checking in.
I can't say I met him. I'm funny when it comes to fandom stuff. I'm not as bold as you would have rocked it. Completely So not knowing how to work the VIP thing, I go in, I check in at the kiosk, and they're like, oh, you go over there, where there is no line and, no one's queuing. And so I go, but I was in one over and they're like, we don't find you. Oh, you're VIP. So they pushed me to the next row over and I look next to me and there's Seth Godin, who he really just is what you think he is. I mean, he's really this just brilliant, unusual professor type with the glasses and the funny little man purse. And he was just so cool. His suits are like just a little bit too big for him. He looks even smaller than he is. He's just so quirky and weird. But anyway, yeah. So I checked into Inbound. So my first 2 minutes on site was standing next to Seth right prior to his talk.
What did he talk about?
I have to say, I ended up not getting, even being VIP, I ended up not being the first 200 people into the small space that he got into. So I was in the main room where they were, projecting it on the large video screen. So, I have to say it's a lot of the same sort of similar messaging that he does for, most of his talks. He's very, it's the purple cow idea. It's the not being afraid to do something different. And, he's just very clever. He's very smart. But it was very kind of hard to hear. Last year he was a keynote on the main stage where everybody had a seat. But his talk, I was a little bit hard to check out, but I think HubSpot has put that out. So you might want to check and see if you can watch his video. It's actually,
okay.
It's actually good. So that was the first day. The next day was Bren Brown, I think, was the first large keynote. And she's just incredible. Are you like the biggest fan of Bren Brown?
I don't even know who that is.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Bren Brown, I think, and I'll double check after this. I think she has like the most popular TED Talk like ever. So look her up. She's a very famous talk, and it's about being vulnerable. It's about, how brave it is to be vulnerable and kind of be yourself, and how kind of being a little bit shy is kind of okay, and showing your vulnerability is a good thing. But she's really, really smart. I don't know what her degrees are, but she's like a psychologist of some kind. And she was on the Oprah show, the Soul Sunday. She did a really popular version of that. And no, Brene Brown is just, go watch it. You'll love her. She's amazing. So she kicked it off and then started the sessions after day one. So I saw, I think on the first day, and I'm going to refer to my notes as we do this, Jamie, because it was just so much good stuff to share. I started off, I think, with Will Critchlow, who is the founder of Distilled, which is a huge, company in my space in SEO. And he did the future of search. So I kicked off my week there with possibly the best, most, arguably the most informative talk that I could have sat through. So
can you give us like a few takeaways from each speaker?
I think that's what I'll do. Yeah. So his talk, and again, some of the stuff wasn't, groundbreakingly new. We've heard some of this stuff before, but he's talking about the move away from, sort of just keywords to intent and meaning. He talked about queries being both explicit and implicit. So, one of the examples he used was someone searching, London tube station, so the explicit is that you explicitly put that into your search, but the implicit and the implied information that Google has about you is that you're on a mobile phone, on an actual iPhone mobile phone, that you're on the streets of London. And then it's choosing what to kind of show you and what to serve up in those first, few seconds. So the algorithm is really smart. It's interpreting meaning and not just keywords, right? So that's kind of the future of search. The future of search is that Google's algorithms are getting so much smarter and they're able to use data to serve up exactly what you want. It's reading your mind almost. So so instead of sending you to the London Tube, master website, the goal, it's sending you to useful, interactive, mobile specific maps, because
that makes sense.
Okay. So that was kind of one of his things.
There's a question here, Danette, that she about the keynote that second day. How do you spell the name of the person that you say?
Sure. It's actually Brene.
With a B.
Brown. Yes. Brene Brown. Yeah, she's amazing. Yeah, her talks are really inspirational. And then we'll discuss a little bit of what's different now, what's kind of changing, what the future of it is of search. And he's saying, to produce better, best content that people want to share. That's either unexpected, simple, credible, but most important, can be consumed on mobile. And that's a really big trend. Because a lot of people are consuming content on mobile and sharing it directly from mobile. And if you can't, if your content isn't showing in a way that can be read and consumed on mobile, they're skipping over it, not sharing it, and not taking it to that next level.
Sure.
The next talker I saw was Ali Gardner. I don't know if you know him. He's the founder of Unbounce, which again is another, it's kind of in my wheelhouse, but it's about, he's like a huge conversion optimization expert. So he does landing pages. Unbound has their own platform, and he is absolutely hysterical. I loved 100% about his talk. His approach to his presentation was kind of unexpected. So he's showing you what was done, and then you were kind of guessing as to whether or not that was going to improve the conversion rate or kind of like bring it down. So and in his talk, he's just like a total rock star. I have the biggest nerd crush on Ali Gardner right now. So much so that evening I kind of approached him at the bar and introduced myself. So that happened. That absolutely happened. But he's a really, really cool guy. Dresses kind of like a surfer. I think I think his company's in Canada. I'm not sure. I'll have to look. But so he talked a lot about this concept of attention ratio. So when you land on a landing page, and not just the homepage of your website, but where you're driving traffic to convert. So either you're doing paid campaigns or other campaigns, and you want someone to do just one thing on the page. The best ratio is actually 1-to-1. there's only one button on the page. There's one thing that you can do, and that is to either opt in or fill out a form or something like that. Right. So he went through, a lot of other conversion optimization tips. So I can just kind of rattle off some of these because some of them were actually surprising to me.
Well, the one-to-one ratio is actually, it's like so easy, but so many people put so much stuff on their each web page. There's so many calls to action that the person is confused on what to do, or there's so much text on their homepage.
Right. Exactly. And the homepage is one thing, and then these landing pages are kind of another idea where it's really, really focused on what you want someone to do. But he's saying, take off all the social signals. No one is going to share your landing page for your one thing. You know what I mean? He was just like, get rid of all of that stuff. So some of the things that I found really, really surprising. One of them was about how many people watch your video on your website. So he said that only 10 to 20% of people that land on your page will actually watch your video. But things to improve that is if you tell them how long the video is. So even if there's a video on the landing page, that is something else to do. But if you say how long it is, like if it's 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes, something kind of short, they're more apt to watch it. Another point was to position that video, at the, obviously at the top of the page. Put the call to action on your landing page in the video, where you tell someone in video what you want them to do. Put that at about the 14% mark, which I thought was interesting. So if someone's going to watch your video, they're most likely going to get through at least the 14% of the total length. So figure out what that is, do that math, right? When you're asking someone to fill out a form on your website, ask specifically for the business email address as opposed to just email address, because apparently that really increases not only the fact that they'll fill it out, but that email address will work and not get caught in a spam filter. So I thought that was really sharp, and they'll read it. They're apparently more apt to open those emails if you send them to a business address.
If they have a business.
They have a business. Put your form at about the 40% down the page, because apparently that's a really good place. If you're as you're structuring your page, figure about where the 40% is. He absolutely hates CAPTCHAs. CAPTCHAs are bad. Remove them. Very good. Also things like scroll assist. I don't know if you know what that is, where there's some funky new symbols that they're putting on the side of pages to kind of help people scroll up and down. You don't need that. He's like, don't reinvent the wheel. People know how to navigate a website. Get rid of that kind of stuff. And he's very against things like carousels, kind of old school, but unless they're either user driven or you can interact with them, because we all know what it's like to have a carousel and be like, oh, what did that just say? And then you're looking for those little weird circles at the annoying. But anyway, that was some of my takeaways from his talk. He's pretty amazing.
I love the websites that just launch into song the second you get on them.
There's a lot of bad stuff. Sorry, there was one other thing. Caption your visuals. So he's saying to put text underneath the images or the video, or what some of the other visuals are on the page, because those captions are read, ready for this, 300% more often than the body on the page itself. So visuals will capture your attention. Your eye is going to be drawn to the visual on the page. Then your eye apparently is drawn to the caption or what it says about that visual on the page. And that's read more times. So if you've got a message to get across, if you've got, some sort of, punch of content, make it be the caption on the visual. That I thought was very, very cool.
Okay.
Yeah. Ollie Gardner.
Very cool. Did you see any of my buddies, Scott Stratton, Chris Brogan, or John Jantz?
I did not. I've gone to John Jantz's talk the last 2 years, and his talk again conflicted with one of these folks. Scott, I've never met. I missed my opportunity to meet him, but his talk again was during one of these other ones. I did see Chris Brogan at one of the counters. He was talking to somebody else, so I didn't approach him. But yeah, Jamie, it was so hard. It was so hard. And some of the time slots, I was shocked that they would line up similar kind of talks at the same time. I don't know if that was to just kind of increase value, or if it just wasn't, kind of considered. They were moving the talks and times around a little bit too, which got a little bit frustrating. There was somebody I really wanted to see, And he was supposed to be on like the last day, and then I guess moved it up, but they never changed it. And so anyway, that guy's name is Mike King. He's known as I Pull Rank. He's at Twitter at I Pull Rank, and I've never seen him talk. I really wanted to catch his chat, but missed it.
There's a question. I think it was what was the name of the person who gave the good video tips?
Yeah, the video tips I was talking about were given by Ali Gardner. And he is the founder of Unbounce. And Unbounce creates, platforms that you can create these landing pages for. So he has seen, his claim to fame is that he has seen more conversion pages than anybody else. It's kind of what he does. But actually, you know what? On Ali Gardner, I downloaded his ebook, which is incredible. So, I'll put this, I'll type this. If you've got a story, I'll put this in, but, it's called Attention Driven Design. And he goes over a lot of some of these ideas, and it was pretty amazing. Okay. Is it okay if I'll just paste this in? But yeah, I read this ebook over the weekend, and he's very good. So check this out. Free. You just kind of sign up for that. Okay.
Yeah. So who was your next speaker, my friend?
My next speaker was, Larry Kim. Larry Kim is the founder of WordStream. Now, literally, I'm going from room to room to room, seeing these people that I've been following on Twitter and who are real, authorities in the field. So it was very, very cool. So he talked about the top 10 social media advertising hacks of all time, and he was actually much funnier and engaging and interesting than I guess I would have assumed. No offense, Larry. I just didn't know that he was that funny, but he was a riot. The talk was really, really good, and I just really liked him. So a couple tips from him. He and I don't have all 10. The way he gave the talk and the way I took the notes and other people took the notes, because you can share notes. All this is public. I just didn't have 1 through 10, but some of the really big takeaways. He had this great idea of vying for traffic on social, right? Because we all know that Facebook has taken away all those views, especially from your business page, right? You're getting, they're saying only 5% of your content or a very small percent of your content is getting through, Facebook. And then he is saying broadly that only 5% of your content that you've created gets about 56% of your overall traffic. So, you know what I'm saying? So if you created a whole lot of, 100 pieces of really great content, blogs or whatever, only 5% of that gets 56% of the traffic. So he had some interesting approaches. So
the number keeps getting smaller.
It does. It just all keeps getting there's more content out there, right? So here's what I loved. Are you boosting posts on Facebook? Are you paying ads or posting? Okay. So that there's a way that you can.
I would use the Power Editor and do Facebook ads that way.
Yeah, the dark post. Yep. Yeah.
Right.
So here's this was his idea. My big takeaways. He said to look for your unicorn content. So your best content. So go into your Google Analytics, find out which blog post of yours, or which traffic is being sent, say, from Facebook. You create a blog, you put it on Facebook. How much of those clicks or whatever your posts are on Facebook that are getting the most shares, engagement, likes, views, that kind of thing. Find your absolute best of the best, whether it's been over the last 6 months or not. Find that, repost that, and pay to boost that content because you already know it's working. Right. I was like, of course that's what you do. Find what's already popular, find what people like and are sharing and are, getting out there, and then repost it and boost that, or do, like you said, the dark post, which is where you post it. It doesn't live on your page, but it lives in the feed, and it's a paid ad.
Yeah. Jeanette is asking what I'm asking to boost. It's not called a boost. When you hit boost post, a lot of experts say it's a waste of money, and the only time it would pay would be something that's like getting a lot of engagement and is rocking it already, like Patti just mentioned. Otherwise, the reason to have a Facebook page and an audience is so that you're able to use Facebook ads and actually use the Power Editor to do a dark post, and you can actually target different people's business pages. So if you're trying to go after people interested in the same thing that you provide, you would perhaps do an ad focused on the followers of that other page. It's pretty cool. Let's see.
Yeah. Which one do you use to be?
Yeah, it's a power editor. You just need to get a little training on Facebook ads.
Yeah. Yeah. And Mari Smith, who I saw.
Or pay someone to do it.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, yeah. If you have a okay, you know Mari Smith. Yeah. So, if you've got a Facebook business page, everything you post, Facebook is like, hey, you want to boost it? And they make it very easy to throw money at them. So, you just have to be careful that you're doing it smart. Mimika, hi, honey. Mimika. Sorry. Yeah, Mimika. Hi, honey.
All right, so let's just give an overall, the goal of social is, first of all, you create an online presence. It shows you have like a solid foundation. If you have great content, you have a lot of followers, you're strong online, but you want to take that and convert that into email lists.
Right.
So the whole point is to perhaps do a call to action that offers some free something or other. So you could give a free webinar, a free workbook, a free PDF download, and you use that as your Facebook ad using the dark post. And when people click on it, you'll see them. As you look and see how other people are doing it. You'll see them come through your news feed. It says sponsored along the top, and it says, hey, download. Are you struggling with XYZ? Download your free workbook and it'll solve your problems. You click it and you have to add your email address and name, and then you can download their freebie. So the whole point is to get all these people that are on social and then bring the right ones onto your list by offering them something that makes sense, that's relevant to what you offer for money down the road.
Ideally, that's how that goes. Absolutely. Right.
Okay. So who else did you see? Oh yeah. So we're still on this guy. What else did he tell you?
We're still on Larry Kim. So Larry Kim talked about remarketing, which, is still converts amazingly. In fact, it offers, he said, 3 times the engagement and 2 times the conversion rates. So we know it
retarget people that show some interest.
That's right. So remarketing, right. So someone who has, and there's a bunch of different ways to do it, but say, for example, someone who's following you on Facebook clicked on one of your, something that led back to your website, or showed interest, or put something in their shopping cart, but then kind of abandoned the shopping cart, or looked at products on your website. You can then retarget that. It's not a surprise that toaster that we were looking at yesterday in Amazon is all of a sudden following us all around the internet, right? That's retargeting. It's a little evil. It's a little weird. But it works. It works huge. It reminds you, oh my gosh, that's right. That toaster. And it's 2 times the conversion rate, 3 times the engagement rates. But there's, really interesting ways that you can do that on Facebook. So someone who's visited your site, someone that's on your email list, you can retarget, very granularly, and, really kind of use the heck out of that. So he was talking about that. Also making lists in Facebook. Have you done that? You can make lists of different people. So he said to think of social media lists and communities as email lists, just as you would, parse your email list and, target within those lists, think of those and use those as email lists, which I thought was really, really good. But here was a really unexpected talk. My next speaker I saw, and I'm skipping over some of the keynotes because they were just amazing. And I'm trying to think of who was the next day. Oh, Aziz Ansari, I think he's the actor that is on, what is it? Parks and Recreation. He's a kind of a comedian, very, very funny guy. He wrote a book. I think it's about dating. I think it's like dating with apps and relationships and meeting people and finding love in 2015. So he was really, really interesting. And he paired up with like I think it's a psychologist or human behavioralist. So they did an interview kind of format. So he's a riot. He was very, very funny.
Was it on like positive psychology, or on like persuasion, or how did it fit in?
The behavioralist was there as far as like how human behavior, in relation to these dating applications, so So looking for love, what people are looking for, what it's like to kind of, do the whole Tinder stuff. I mean, Jamie would not want to be single. I would not want to be young and single in this age. I think it would be really hard to navigate all that. It scares me. But yeah, so he was really, really funny. And I think, again, like I said, I think the keynotes were captured, are available through video through HubSpot. So I would recommend that. This guy has like rocked my world, and I'm dying to get into this book and understand more how to do this, because it's a struggle that I've had personally in my business. But this gentleman's name is Paul, I believe it's Roetzer, Roetzer. He's the founder of PR 2020. So he's a PR company, and he did a talk on value-based pricing model. So he also gave me this book, gave us all this book. It's backwards, right? So it's the Marketing Performance Blueprint: Strategies and Technologies to Build and Measure Business Success. But his talk on value-based pricing model was so interesting. So I might throw a link in here to his website as well. He does, SEO and some other stuff as well, lots of PR, service-based model. And he wanted to get away from, I'm sorry, as I'm looking for this, he wanted to get away from charging by the hour. I think he was in consulting as well. So he had this background in charging by the hour, but it really wasn't working out for what he was offering for his clients. So he moved to this value-based system where he gave the value points, and it was a point system. And then his clients were then paying for the points. And he went through this very transparent talk about, I started here, I tried this didn't work this way, I tried it this way. And he has all of his pricing beautifully laid out on his website. It was really, really interesting. And now, of course, I can't find it. But, when we talk again, I'll get this. Oh, here it is. Okay. So yeah, PR 2020, and he goes into how he charges his clients, which I think is brilliant. And this is different than results-based pricing. It's not like, I'll drive your traffic to this and then you'll pay me that. It wasn't as explicit as that, but it's this value. Like, what are the steps in the value chain, and how do I kind of parse that out and charge? So the website is really interesting. He seemed like a really nice guy, really interesting guy. So yeah, so he was doing like kind of like monthly promotions. I'm looking at the website now. So he gave, so many social shares, so many email letters, so much ebook copy, and he gave each of those kind of a point system. And every month you were paying for a certain point, and it's measuring progress. And apparently his clients are very happy with this model, and we're happy to move over.
I like it. It's a little more structured than my offering, which is, I will do as much as humanly possible. Right. So, and also, yeah. He is very structured. He's really an interesting guy, but I get the value base. I mean, I do, kind of retainer work, which is sort of similar. So I almost feel like I'm on staff for all of my clients. I'm responsive. I'll work whenever anything happens or breaks, or their sites get hacked. Don't get me started. So many hackings recently. I'm like I don't sleep anymore. I'm traumatized. But I mean, it's, but this value-based, I think, is a really interesting model. So I'm not sure how to apply this to my business. I'll keep in touch with you about what I try or test out, but I'm really, really interested. So that was a phenomenal talk. I don't know how much time we have here. I'm going to just keep going. Is that okay? You're allowed to record up to 6 hours, according to Black.
I got all day. Okay.
All right. What do you got next, girl?
All right, Ginny Dietrich. Ginny Dietrich is the founder of Arment Dietrich, and I hope I'm saying her name right. But she discussed how to use media relations to drive SEO. So she, again, PR, SEO, again, like right in my wheelhouse, right in this sweet spot. And let me just grab my other notes here. She was really cool. I started following her sort of leading up to Inbound when I saw what she did. She's totally adorable. Absolutely loved her talk. I thought she was absolutely phenomenal. So she discussed a lot of it was keyword research and kind of that sort of stuff. But then she laid out a process. And for her, and this would really apply to you, you would like this. You need to follow her. Was about how to get your blog post or your content kind of picked up in syndication or get press mentions for your blog post, and also increase your SEO, like without kind of just giving it away and going straight to say, the newspapers or the advertisers, but help your SEO first. So her process was creating a blog post, putting it on your website, and then waiting 30 or 60 days. So let your site get the most value out of the hits and the traffic first, right? And then, of course, you're measuring and making sure it's really great content. People are liking it. People are sharing it, measuring the engagement, measuring the shares. But, again, it's that unicorn idea. I kept hearing that, so we're all creating a lot of content. You want to find that 5% that people are sharing and consuming and doing a great job with, and I mean, we all want to produce the best possible content and make it all be the best, but we're fooling ourselves. Only so much of it is really getting through this filter, this clogged, busy filter of social media, right?
That makes sense. So, whatever. Don't try to keep pushing the stuff that's not resonating. Just find out what's working, what's getting engagement, what people are sharing, and keep pushing that out on different platforms. Sure, that's good.
Yeah, and it's not a guessing game anymore. There's nothing about this that you don't have a ton of data on. I mean, some of it's a little less clear, but anything on the web, the clicks, the visits, where the traffic came from, the referral sites. Get yourself someone that knows how to read data and how to read analytics and how to report on that. And, it's kind of a no-brainer. And I'm going to be using some of these tactics with some of my clients that have, years of really great content, really great blog posts, and start really sifting through, finding those gems and, elevating those and using those proven ideas to create buzz, right? So Ginny did that. She talked about, finding out what works, waiting that 30, 60 days, getting that SEO, that link juice, that having it help you first. And then going to the other websites and offering that contribution to them and have them kind of link back to you. She talked a lot about, how to get the most out of like anchor text and those key phrases that you're going after. I mean, she was just brilliant. I mean, that I'm really into kind of where PR and SEO kind of crossover, and she was all over it. She was totally speaking my language. It was amazing. She talked about domain authority and page rank increasing, and a lot of that. So you've heard my talks before. So domain authority is a Moz algorithm that they use over at Moz.com, where you can evaluate sites based on how Google perceives them. So it's a popularity contest. New York Times is going to be, 100, and maybe your sister's blog is going to be 2, right? So somewhere in between there. So you want to find someone with a really great domain authority that will share and amplify your content for you and with you after you've gained the SEO benefits of having it live on your own site and your own platform for a while. So I thought that was really great, really brilliant stuff. My next talk was Mitch Joel. You familiar with Mitch Joel?
I know him, but I'm not sure why.
Kind of love Mitch Joel. Mitch Joel is brilliant. I've seen him speak the last 2 years. He used to work at Google. He now, I know his blog is really, really popular. It's called 6 Pixels. Okay. He also has a podcast that's also really, really popular. I think he just interviewed Michael Port, I noticed recently, for his talks. They kind of all know each other, but he's really, really brilliant. He's one of the few people that come to this conference in particular, and he's really, forward looking. Like he's looking at trends, and he's making predictions, and he's talking about kind of where everything's going. I find a lot of the talks are sort of present, or what has changed since last year, or what we can do today. He's talking about kind of like where stuff is going. So his talk is amazing. And also, I was horribly disappointed to find that it was the same precise talk that he gave last year. I almost fell over. I was so excited to see Mitch talk. And I just sat there almost kind of sort of heartbroken. And then I haven't said anything. I haven't, I wanted to kind of reach out to him on Twitter and be like, really? You had a year. Like, you come up with something else. Things aren't exactly the same. But at the same time, it was a great talk. And I still find him engaging. But, Jamie.
Yeah.
I wanted to cry. So he talks, his talk again for the second year in a row is about kind of impermanence. So the idea of impermanence and not kind of owning things, but sort of sharing things, and that the internet is porous, and all of these like lofty, beautiful ideas. So we talked about, kind of Airbnb, right? Who knew a decade ago or, 2 years ago that we'd be renting our extra bedroom out in our house? You know what I mean? Who knew that things like Snapchat, some of these ideas where, the content is there and then it kind of goes away. It's not permanent. The idea of music, we're not owning CDs anymore. We're not owning physical music. We're kind of renting it. We're on, Spotify and, all these other music things. So it's kind of really interesting. He talked about, he did talk about Periscope. So I think that was a new aspect to the talk, but a lot of this I've seen before. That ready for this, that the laptop or your desktop is now an accessory to the mobile phone, which is the primary, so we kind of, so again, he's talking about kind of where stuff is going, and he's being very edgy and progressive. And I love that about him. And his blog is amazing. His podcast is amazing. He's just a smart guy. And like I said, he was at Google in the early years. So not too long ago. So he's just a marketing like genius.
So there's a little comment about Derek Halpern's belief that you should, the 80-20 rule. 80% of your time you promote the 20, and 20% of the time you write the content.
There you go. Yeah.
Just create some good content, and then spend a lot of time pushing it out all different platforms. Yeah. Yep. Definitely repurpose. Don't just do one and done.
Repurpose. So let me talk about the next guy. I'm going to jump to him. So Lee Auden is, oh my gosh, who is he from? I forget what his company is. Let me just see real quick. So Lee Auden is the CEO of Top Rank Online Marketing. And his talk was really interesting, talk about repurposing. It was called Hungry for Better Content, What the Mighty Hamburger Can Teach Us About Repurposing and Personalizing with Modular Content. Big mouthful. He used the cheeseburger basically as kind of a metaphor throughout his talk to talk about, if you're creating content, how to repurpose it. So let me bring up some of my other notes. It was interesting. I mean, it was kind of a no-brainer. Like we know most of these ideas right now. Hold on, let me see if I can find it. Here we go. And but it was interesting. So if you've got a large ebook, right, that you're kind of giving away or maybe selling for $9 or, something like this, if you take that ebook and kind of crunch it down into little smaller bits of content or blog post or social media post or Facebook post, he kind of talked about how to leverage that. One way to do it is to start with something big and then kind of go small. And then the other way is to kind of, bottom up. So go small, give out a bunch of little things, ones that are shared and liked. And again, we have proof that are working, bundle them together, create something like an ebook or some kind of offering or a presentation or some other way to do it. But he had some interesting diagrams on the screen about, where to use it and what to use to promote your brand. And he used bacon as a really big idea, so bacon was like the most delicious, pit of it. So he was really interesting. I really liked him. I thought he was clever and really, really smart. And again, in my wheelhouse, stuff that I could use and take away with. So I thought Lee Auden was great.
I like for somebody that's just starting out, I kind of like the idea of doing the little content, putting things out there and see what gets engagement, what people are interested in, what's really hitting their pain points, so that before you create your big offering, you're going to have an audience that really wants it because you're testing it out ahead of time.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think so too. And I like what, I like the idea of because it takes a lot of time. I don't hear anyone really talking about the time it takes to create this content that, isn't getting so many clicks and views. So if you're going to put the time it takes to, and I'm not a writer, so I really get that, I have a lot of respect for people that write and can produce a lot of these ebooks and stuff. But if you're taking the time to do that, you really want to maximize the value. And sometimes, if you just step back and look at this, if you do, the top 15 ways to whatever, each of those can be a piece. Each of those can be can be a post, or each of those can, get you leverage on, say, social media or something else. The imagery alone can live on something like an Instagram. So taking the big piece, parsing it out, again, not a aha moment necessarily. This isn't, but I just thought it was interesting. I thought his talk was interesting.
Right.
I think if I can find his link later, I'll post it somehow, maybe on Twitter. Because he gave a couple diagrams and a couple things that were actually quite useful that I really, really liked.
If anyone needs help creating blog topics, I have a free giveaway. It's called Blog Topic Brain Dump. And you can find it there's a lead box on networknowconnections.com. It's my regular website, not on the homepage. Just click any of the tabs and you should see it in the sidebar. It's just a little blue-green box, and it'll give you enough topics to come up with for the whole year in like half an hour. So my worksheet just prompts you so that you can come up with content, because a lot of people say they don't know what the heck to write about, right? So.
Yeah. I've seen some really interesting tips for that too. One of them is to kind of go through the alphabet, come up with 2 ideas that kind of start with each letter. And then there's a 1 blog post a week for a year. I was like, that's a clever one.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know how much easier it makes it, but I was like, oh, okay, there you go. Then I saw, should I go on?
Yeah, go.
Next speaker. Okay, so I saw Mari Smith. Do you know who Mari Smith is, Jamie?
Sure, that I know. Yes. She's adorable and very, very smart. Social media guru.
She's great. She's smart. She's known as the queen of Facebook, something like that. She in her talk that she gave is actually, I believe this is her talk. It's actually marismith.com/inbound. I kind of forget what she put there, but I thought she was very generous. She was I've never seen her speak before. Have you heard her speak?
Not live, no.
Have you ever heard her voice?
I think so. Haven't I?
Okay. I've never heard her voice. And, just like on a side note, she started speaking, and I'm so glad that she explained her accent, because I was like, what am I hearing? Like it's the craziest accent I've ever heard. Respectfully, Mari. She must know it is, because she gets up and speaks, and then she kind of explains why she sounds the way she sounds.
Is she from like Wisconsin area up there?
No. So her parents are Scottish.
Okay.
So there's the Scottish accent, which is interesting in and of itself. But she's from Saskatchewan, Canada, which is a very Canadian version of Canada accent. So I've never heard anything like it. I sat there for like the first few minutes going, oh my God, this is like the craziest accent I've ever heard. So anyway, Mari Smith is adorable. And given the background, it's surprising she can even speak the language, but she does a really great job. She does a really great, and I think she may be in California now. So God bless Mari Smith. She's a riot. So she talked about, obviously, Facebook, right? And she was drinking from the fire hose. She could not give away more information and more tips. But I was like this the whole time. I was just like typing like a mad person. So she's really, really great. She talked about, 3 critical trends happening in Facebook right now. Being Facebook, one trend is Facebook is disrupting television and video. So I guess it's taking away shares from television and video, which I thought was interesting. Facebook Live video is coming up, right? So it's going to be kind of competing with like a Periscope. Her other one was Messenger for Business is coming up. That's going to be a new thing. So I guess it's a direct.
Let's go back to that first one, interrupting TV and video. Like what are you talking about?
I don't have much content here, but I guess
I know there's more video being uploaded to Facebook than YouTube right now.
Yeah. So she says 73% of video on Facebook is from somewhere else. So I guess it's you're getting more views on Facebook, even though it's maybe on YouTube.
Like I watched Jimmy Fallon.
Yeah. Did you see
on Facebook? Yes. Okay. I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, and I think the other interesting thing too, that might be a little bit of a cheat is that Facebook is kind of auto playing those videos, right? So as you're scrolling through, the video will start moving with the sound off, and kind of like, are they counting those as views? Not sure. Could be. I don't know. I think it's a little bit unusual. Facebook is starting to do cookieing on mobile now. That's happening, which is a big deal. You weren't able to cookie kind of on mobile, but I think that's happening. I have that in my notes here. Let me see here. She has a bunch of, she lists, I have a list here of a bunch of mistakes that people are making on Facebook advertising, how to think of your objectives on Facebook advertising. Let me see, calls to action. This was my least organized. Like I said, fire hose. You have to forgive me here. Amplification. So she's talking about kind of lead generation. So you pay to amplify the reach of your blog post and content containing the most helpful tutorials. So again, she's kind of reiterating this unicorn idea, find out what's working, amplify that, because that's going to get you the most return. Be a member first.
So as far as the live video stream within Facebook, doesn't the page need to be authorized or something ahead of time? You need to get your page authenticated or something, and then you're allowed.
Oh, that's for the, and she gave a tip about that too. Yeah. What is that called? So you are on Facebook and then you're kind of deemed almost like in Twitter. They're kind of all doing that now. You need
sort of authentication. Exactly. You have to have so many followers and so on and prove that
yes. Yes. And you know what? I'm looking at my phone. I apologize. She told me, she said one shortcut way to do that might be helping is if you put Facebook mentions, like download the Facebook mentions app on your phone and kind of connect it to your account. And that might speed up, she's seeing some like if you go forward and include mentions, then you could get that authenticated state, right? I'm forgetting what it's called, but yeah, she said, she told me to do that. And I did that on, what is mentions? So mentions is a better way for actors, athletes, musicians, and other influencers to keep in touch with their fans and the people they care about. So
it alerts you when someone mentions you?
I'm not sure. Tell your story as it happens. This is the live video. This is the Periscope idea. So right. Go live is the Facebook, live streaming video. But not anybody can do that. I guess they're beta testing it with these celebrity types right now, right? These actors, athletes, musicians. And then you can kind of talk with fans. So see what people are saying about you and the topics you're interested in, or host a Q&A with your fans. So yeah, I think it's more of this special VIP status, which I'm VIP at inbound apparently, but not in the world of Facebook, I guess. Anyway. Interesting stuff. So she was very, very cool. She was very generous. She was giving away a lot of tips and stuff. I really liked her. She was cool. I'm so glad she explained her accent though. It was pretty awesome. She's pretty incredible. And let me see, I guess the only other person, and I'm not sure if I have really great notes on him. So his name was Rohit Bhagava, and he is from themarketingsage.com. And he gave a talk on predicting the future. And he had a book, and he's really, really interesting. So it's the non-obvious trends to help you think different. Okay. Thought it was really, really cool. Really, really cool. So he went over 5 trends that will change your business in 2015. I have these kind of listed here. So the first one was unperfection, which
Blab, Periscope, just get out there, be authentic.
I guess. Well, and actually, and our dear friend Petra Kolber is going to be talking about, the Perfection Detox. She does a lot of talks about getting people out of this, thinking that they have to be perfect and, edited. Right? Again, we're in a space of unedited. We're here on Blab. So he's talking about strategically flawed on purpose was kind of this idea. And his example was Crocs and Uggs, and how, it's a wrong theory and you're creating discord. So the idea is that they're so super ugly and unusual and they look so weird, but it's this discord that draws the attention to it. So again, and it's funny, they mentioned, Derek Halpern before. Derek does this Discord idea. If you watch what he does, he'll take these like crazy pictures of his like distorted face. He's kind of, he doesn't need to do that, but it's creating that attention through the unperfection, right? Yeah. So another trend is the reluctant marketer brand. Increasingly use content instead of promotion to educate, engage, and sell. Okay. So these are brands. So his example here was Weber Grills. So Weber Grills are writing books on how to grill. So they're kind of creating content and promoting this other idea that can be used in and of itself on any grill, not a Weber grill, but it's sort of like it's then kind of promoting the idea and getting you to associate grilling with the term Weber and brand building. So I guess the idea is to, educate in parallel with your brand to build your brand. Make sense?
Yeah. Okay. So I should think about networking, not about cat care.
There you go. Right. Or if you're like a large brand that isn't, in the content creation space, you're sort of doing it in this reluctant way, I guess was his point. Okay. Let me just see if I can grab like another one here. I'm like scouring through my notes here. Social experiments. I thought this was interesting. So Experimedia. So the idea of, kind of like testing, A/B testing on your audience. So kind of seeing what works again, or share your own social experiments. So yeah. So what he's doing here. Yeah. So in your own business, say, creating content, again, like a blog post or other content about something that you tried, whether it worked, what the outcomes were. So again, it's just, a way to change your business looking forward, in 2015 is to, blog and share about your, social experiments.
Okay.
So that's kind of one other tip.
Well, that ties into the whole transparent, authentic, real thing.
Again, the impermanence idea, right? The internet being porous. Yeah. So a lot of these, there were a lot of these interesting trends that went through. And let me look at the keynotes. Let's see if I can jar anything interesting that can get. Oh my gosh. You know who I thought was amazing? And I know everyone knows this guy, Daniel Pink.
Oh yeah.
Okay. I'm not necessarily, I don't read a lot of that level of business books, right? He talks about sales and selling, but his talk, and I'm sure he's given the same talk a million times. I'm sure it's all over YouTube, but it was really interesting listen for me because I don't really kind of like study this kind of stuff. And of course it's not here. I think it's on my phone. But he was very cool. Let me see. Oh, Dan Pink, here it is. So he talked about, where we are with sales. So he gave an example. I was teasing Francine Graglia. I kind of put this on her Facebook page because I thought it was so funny. I took some pictures of Daniel Pink's presentation that he was giving, his slideshow. So he said that he asked 7,000 people what their first thought of when they thought of sales. And it was like slimy, yucky, icky, right? The idea of being sold to. And then he asked the same 7,000 people what they thought of when they heard the words salesperson.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm gonna test you right now. What do you think of when you think of salesperson?
Car lot.
Exactly. Everybody said car salesman. It was car salesman, cars, selling cars. So he did a like a word bubble, where he kind of showed what people said, and it was like the same thing. And I was thinking the same thing. I was like, oh my God, he's reading my mind. But he talked about where we're not in that place anymore. As far as sales goes, we're not where we were when everybody kind of hated salesmen and door-to-door salesmen and car salesmen, that it's kind of flipped. So that experience comes from a time when the salesperson had all the information, right? You didn't know about the product. You didn't know about the vacuum cleaner. They'd come in your house. And that is when you needed to either choose to trust or believe or, understand what was being said. Now it's completely the other way around. We have all the information. We have Google at our fingertips. We know what from what. I mean, think about what it's like to buy a car now. The exact model you want, the price you want, all the different, dealerships within a certain geography that has that car, what they're selling it for. You can bargain. We now have the power. So all of that has kind of like shifted. I thought that was kind of interesting that it's more, a dialogue and an offering and, being helpful and just honestly positioning what you have, to offer, what your
Right.
you know, what your ideas
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Um,
When I bought a car, the salesman didn't even bother negotiating. I said, I know you paid this. That's what I want to give you. So,
yeah. And remember when was it not Subaru? What was the company that came out and their whole deal is this is the sticker price. You know what I mean? Like
yeah, I don't know.
Saturn. Remember when Saturn cars came out and
Yeah.
there was no bargaining, no, whatever else. Yeah. So I also do we have a few more minutes?
Of course. I'm here for you.
Daniel Pink had this really interesting thing. And again, I told my girlfriend this over dinner later that night. He was the keynote on the very last day, and he was very, very funny. And so he talked about the sales pitch formula. And as I explained this to my girlfriend, who was a teacher, she's a master's degree in teaching. She's like, "Oh my God, I used to use this with my second graders to teach them how to write." So it was called the Pixar pitch. So this is kind of like to replace what everybody hates as the elevator pitch. But as far as, pitching work or sales. So it goes like this. Once upon a time, there was blank. Every day, blank. One day, blank. Because of that, blank. Because of that, blank. Until finally, blank. So he went into this thing that this is how you're supposed to kind of stick with me. This is how you're supposed to, kind of present your business. So he did an example of, what is it? Finding Nemo. So he's like, this is what it looks like when you do it in Pixar. So I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it was, once upon a time, there was a widowed fish named Marlin who was extremely protective of his only son, Nemo. Every day, and then he goes on and on and on. And then one day, in an act of defiance, Nemo ignored his father and, did this. And because of that, he was captured by a diver and ends up as a pet in a dentist office. And because of that, Marlin set out on a journey, blah, 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 until Marlin and Nemo find each other, blah, blah, blah. So that's what it looks like literally as a Pixar pitch, right? So he does an example of the product is an HIV related, an HIV test of some kind. So that's the product that's being sold. So he says, once upon a time, there was a health crisis haunting many parts of the world. Every day, thousands of people would die, blah, blah, blah. One day we developed an inexpensive home HIV test. Because of that, more people got tested. Because of that, those with the infection sought treatment until finally this menacing disease slowed its spread and more people live longer. So it was kind of like, so then he said to kind of do that for your business, like what your offering is. Once upon a time, the world looked like this. It did this, it did that until this solution was in place and then that. So it kind of, it's kind of just a way to tell a story, a way to get your product or your service, kind of out there. Think of it in terms of that. My girlfriend was like, Patti, I've been doing this for a long time, teaching second graders how to write stories. And I'm like, well, it's a thing too. So Daniel Pink, who's talking about sales, he's like, at the very end of his story, he's like, all right, and you know what? And I'm going to teach you how to do your pitches. And then he did this whole like example, and he was really funny and, kind of a really great speaker. Again, unexpectedly, good from my standpoint. I didn't know much about him. I mean, I know of his books. I just, I didn't know much about him.
Well, having a story it makes you relatable and it makes you shareable. So people know they love to share stories. So give them a story to share.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And, there was a lot of that. There's a lot more of that last year. I think this particular audience has been hearing that and chewing on that. Those stories kind of connect and, being human is always the best way to go. But anyway, yeah. So that was Inbound. I thought it was great. I don't know what,
Chelsea Clinton.
Okay. So what? Chelsea Clinton was so amazing. Now her speaking style, was a little, was a little flat. She didn't have, a lot of kind of excitement going on, but what she was speaking on is so incredibly important and so touching and so current. She came to speak about her nonprofit that she works with, not necessarily the Clinton Foundation, but another nonprofit. And I kind of forget, what the name is. I'll find out because it's really, it was really moving. It was just really moving. I was so impressed. So her nonprofit focuses on women equality globally, and why that's important, and what elevating women, you know, in our society, why that is so important to our future, and you know, so a lot of it is very dark, you know, kind of how women are treated in different parts of the world. But what was interesting, and I bet she does this everywhere she speaks, she started off by saying that there's a rule in the state of Massachusetts, that a law that girls as young as 12 years old, with the consent of their parents and the courts, can marry. So it's like an old law that most likely isn't being used, or isn't really out there. But then she said, you know, but laws matter. Laws like that are still on the books, that remain on the books, matter and need to be, you know, kind of like removed. And so then she showed a series of images where, you know, one on the left was sort of a, you know, Eastern or American, you know, Western, American girl at a particular age. And then there was the corresponding what's happening somewhere else, you know. So it was, someone was a CEO at 14. You know, there was someone who was a big YouTube star who's a kind of a CEO of her own company at the age of 14, compared to a 14-year-old bride somewhere where that's accepted or socially encouraged. She made some really beautiful points about how to engage those conversations. And she sort of referenced her mother and her mother's work, that you can't just kind of go into these countries with their cultural differences and just kind of say how it's going to be, right? But instead you position it as to why it's best for their economy and their lifestyles and their, you know, why it's good for everyone that women are elevated to more equal status. You know, because it's a big financial burden when women are not treated equally, or, you know, go through abuse, or become needed to be supported financially by the state, or, you know, the children. It was really interesting. She spoke about the refugee crisis and how that's particularly even worse for women, and mothers and wives, and why that's horrific. But anyway, so she was talking about really big ideas, and she was talking about how, you know, what's changing, and how it's, you know, it seems like it's changing fast, but it's really not. It's really, you know, these are very small percentages, and they need to focus on where they can make a difference. And so anyway, but she was so impressive. She was so, you know, kind of off the cuff, and she had a presentation. Then she also did an interview style discussion following. And it was just, she was amazing. She was really, really amazing. And it was not political. In fact, the odd part about that is approaching the convention center that day, I thought for sure I was going to have to go through some kind of metal detector, or feel a sense of security in the room. And to talk about how I was also VIP again, I got preferential seating. So I had my own little up front. It was incredible. So I got to sit up front for all of this, right? So I got to sit in my little VIP section, but I didn't see any kind of protection for her, which I thought was strange. And on three different occasions,
I'm sure they were there.
But it was weird. I mean, I was looking for it. It was really weird. On 3 different occasions, somebody kind of almost sort of rushed the stage, but really they were just coming up with a camera to take pictures. Nothing happened. I'm like having a heart attack thinking, you know, oh my gosh, this is a little bit scary, but no, it was, I don't know if I'm crazy or paranoid, but it was unnerving. It was unnerving, but no, so she was amazing. Loved her. Really, really impressed.
Does her nonprofit use social at all to get the word out?
I'm sure, you know, I should really just take a second and look up what it's called. It was called No Something. No. Let's look that up. But that was my. Mm-hmm.
So if you find it, type it in. So let's talk about the 14,000 people that were teeming in the hallways. What were most of those people doing? Are they networking? Are they periscoping? Are they taking photos, selfies? Are they just typing away on their laptops? Is it like what's the downtime looking like?
You know, there wasn't a lot of downtime, I have to say. It was, 2 of the 3 days I didn't have lunch. Like I just kind of, I didn't leave because they had talks all over the place, and you could either choose to eat lunch or choose to sit through the talk. So I was like literally sitting through I didn't have lunch, but yeah, well, there were parties at night, right? You mentioned Amy Schumer. So there was a really big party at night for her. She was absolutely hysterical. Loved her. There was this thing called Club Inbound, which was like the large space right outside of where the keynote spoke, the large room where you would kind of kick off the days and end the days. They had some vendors there that were interesting, but mostly it was like a big party. They were giving massages on the last day. There was free coffee. There was a big deal that Dunkin' Donuts was giving away free coffee. I happened to, a good friend of mine who I consulted with in New York a previous career ago, 15 years ago, happens to work for HubSpot. He's the VIP for sales and operations for HubSpot. So the last 2 years that I've gone, I've kind of hooked up with him and gone out with him in the evening, met some of his friends. And it was funny. I actually got him into the VIP section because he could, yeah, right. They stopped him until he like found somebody he knew and could kind of come in and, we could chat over coffee, but it was pretty much funny. But yeah, so yeah, what else did I do? There was that at night. There was another reception again, on the kickoff night, like I said, with Seth Godin's. That was a big thing. They had the happy hour each night was in that large space, big lines for beer, and kind of like food and stuff that I didn't have to stand. No, but last year I was standing in those lines waiting for the beer. But no, it was really, really cool. Oh, and you know who else I met? I don't know if you know who Laura Fitton is. She's at Pistachio on Twitter. I've been following her for several years. She was big part of, she had her own company and then moved over to HubSpot, and she's really amazing. Does a lot of inbound stuff. But I met her, and my friend Dave was introducing me to her, and this was the night after Amy Schumer, after a few cocktails, and he was like, "Oh, like they stopped and started talking," and then he introduced me. He's like, "Laura," and I'm like, "Fitton Pistachio," and then like we just like had this moment where we were like best girlfriends for like 2 minutes, and then she told me that her mom was there, and I'm like, "Can I meet your mom?" So I had pictures of me and Laura Fitton and her mom, and there was some like crazy woman there writing haikus on the spot. So she's like typing out haikus. So I walked away with a really funny haiku. I was like, "It's my birthday," and she's like handing me these haikus. So it was, it was pretty cool, running into, those that you follow on Twitter who are otherwise, experts and, amazing thinkers in their field. And then you're like, big nerd convention. But yeah, it was really cool. I also, I don't know the time here. I can go on too. I had a little bit of a horrific time getting from point A to point B in Boston. It was almost comical.
You were using Uber.
So I'm like, I guess I'm a big Uber convert, but I started off in the taxi line because I just had to get back to my girlfriend's place. And the one night I had my hand on the cab, I'm opening the door, and the cab in front of him backed up into that cab. So like as I'm holding the handle, the car like jerked backwards. I was like, oh no, kind of a fight ensued. I get in the cab behind him, and I was like, I'm out of here, get in the cab behind him. There's a bunch of cabs, and told them where I was going. I was going to the suburbs to where I was staying, and I'm like Winchester. And then we get in, and then I don't know where I am. So I'm staring at my phone the whole time, doing whatever I'm doing. And then the next thing I know, I look up, and he took me to some place called Winthrop, which is very far from Winchester. So I had this the cab in front of me gets hit. The next guy takes me to the completely wrong side of the city. I was like on some peninsula near the airport, as opposed to being out in the suburbs on the other side of the city. And then the next morning, my Uber driver gets lost getting to the convention center. I'm like, he just stopped thinking. That's the downside to Uber. He had the thing on his phone, right? The app that gave him the address that I gave him. But it was like the convention center's here, and he got forced onto a highway, and then we had to sit in traffic. And so instead of being 30 minutes early for Chelsea Clinton, I was like, just barely on time. So it was almost comical. I was afraid to get on a plane at the end of it because I was like, what's going to happen? My Uber driver gets lost. My cab driver gets lost. The other guy gets in an accident. So, this is what happens in your
experience. This is what, your third year at HubSpot's Inbound?
It was my third year. Yeah. The first one I went to was, this is in a row. So the first one I went to was held at the Heinz, which is a much smaller convention center. And then, but it was downtown. It was right where you'd want to be. And then they moved it to the really massive convention center, which again, to add to what it feels like to be there, it's very spread out. I mean, like very spread out. So you are dashing from kind of one event and one talk to the next, and there's really, really big lines. And, I did see people kind of like periscoping and videoing. You asked about what's happening in the hallways. That was happening. And yeah, and the other thing that's interesting, a cultural phenomenon, is that there's charging stations kind of everywhere, right? Because we all need our devices charged, our laptops charged, and everything else. So the way they do that is kind of, they have these little cubes, and they've got tons and tons of little plugs. Everyone's sitting on the floor, charging their devices. And the couch I was on in the special lounge that I had access to had, you sit on the couch, but there were plugs down the armrest of the couch. So it was a sign of the times. Thought that was, you kind of see that everywhere, I guess, but that was fun. But anyway, that was Inbound, Jamie. That was the next best thing to being there, is me blabbing on about it.
So the woman that spoke at Network Now's conference, remember we did a conference and HubSpot came and spoke at the Health and Wellness Center? She's not at HubSpot anymore.
Her name is Ellie Merman. Ellie Merman. And I actually stepped into her talk. I saw she is working. She spoke. She was there to speak. Ellie Merman is at a company called Toast now, and Toast services restaurants. They have a system. Not exactly sure what it does, but it's some system for restaurants themselves as brands. But her talk was about kind of like culture or company culture or something like that. That I think I kind of stepped in to just kind of see how her talk was kind of kicking off, and I did end up jumping out of that, but I didn't run into her casually. I would have said hi. I think the first year I took a picture with she and I kind of tagged you in it. Yeah, she spoke at that Inbound conference that Network Now had.
Yeah,
she's great.
So do the themes of the Inbound change at all each year? Like you said, mostly this year it's less storytelling and more about, or are there same tracks and you can kind of switch around, like you did a lot of SEO stuff?
Yeah, and they did a lot to help that, actually. You could sort of choose a particular track and they would make an agenda for you. So you could do data track, data head track, content creation track. Some of the storytelling, is there. I guess I wasn't in the room, and my talks weren't amplifying that idea as much as in previous years. There's a lot of nonprofit that's highlighted there as well. So people that are talking about how to grow nonprofits in particular. And then they pick a nonprofit each year to promote and highlight and raise awareness to. So what they raised awareness to this year was the Malala Fund. Mm-hmm. Malala, she, right. So she's coming out, or there is a documentary about her. So someone who I think either produced the documentary or is her sort of speaker or advocate was there and did a big presentation on Malala. So that, again, is very important. But I think people come away from that a little confused. I've read a few reviews of Inbound where people are like, what are we doing? Why was Chelsea Clinton there? Why are we promoting the Malala Fund? Why isn't it just this single focus? But I think that I don't mind. I like hearing about those important issues. I think last year they were raising awareness for water in Africa and drought. Mm-hmm. Challenged area.
I can see how people would think it's a little jarring and disjointed, but it adds the whole, another level of meaning to it. It's like you got to give back to where you work and play, and you got to get the message out.
And we're human, and it's a good thing to do, and it makes a lot of sense. But yeah, so I saw a little bit of that. and then there's a comedy element, like Amy Schumer and, Aziz. So it was sort of, that was a little bit different, but it's definitely, it feels like you're being entertained for sure. There were a lot of talks. There was someone else I saw that was amazing, whose podcast I've been watching, or whose his podcast I've been watching, but his, and he was like really, really good. His name is Mark Maron.
Okay.
Mark Maron. Sorry, Mark Maron. Mark Maron is a riot. Who's saying hi? Oh,
Jen,
hi, bye.
I'm waving goodbye to Jen.
Okay, bye, Jen. So Mark Maron does a podcast called WTF is the name of his podcast. He's famous for a couple things, which I think is interesting. One is being rejected from the Saturday Night Live cast. I think he's a comedian. He's a comedian. So he got rejected from Saturday Night Live. So that's his one claim to fame. And his other is that he just interviewed the president. So a couple months ago, or over the summer, President Obama was in California, took a helicopter to near his like residential modest neighborhood and came to his garage and filmed a WTF podcast. And so he explained kind of what that was like and how his neighbor is like this retired guy. And he was like, hey, listen, do you mind if we put Secret Service on your roof with like these really big guns? And he's like, it was the most exciting thing that's ever happened to him. So it was like this hysterical story about that. But he talked about, podcasting. He was like very, very funny and self-deprecating. And, he's from New Jersey and he curses a lot. And I don't know, I relate to him in this way. But anyway, so I've been listening to his podcast since I saw him on the roster. So he's a little bit new to me, but he's a riot. He's an absolute riot.
Okay, cool.
Okay, I think I'm done with my stories now.
Well, what was the overall thought of everyone up there about podcasts now that there's Periscope and Blab?
Yeah, I wish I would have liked to have heard, I would have liked to have heard Mitch Joel kind of talk about that. I don't know. I wish I could answer that. I don't know. Because honestly, I'm torn between, the podcasting and the blabbing myself with SEO and IPA, which is something that I've been doing with my partner, Dan Barrett, for the last 2 years. We started out on a Google Hangout. But there's no real audience that, there's no findability with Google Hangouts on air. There's no real way to find it. Where this, you can schedule in advance, you can see who's streaming live, you can, kind of experience it and jump in, and there's hot seats and you can invite others, very, very cool. But no, I didn't get answers to that. Either I wasn't in the right room, or I don't know. I guess we'll see. There's a lot of other people spreading opinions and points of view on that movement. So
you have the whole iTunes audience. That's huge.
Right. Absolutely. There were ways, actually Mark Maron talked about his podcast, how that kind of came about. And he was like joking. He's like, listen, I just started doing it. He mentioned the handful of cheap equipment that he started using. He talked about the little square that you make for iTunes. It goes in their podcast register. It's one of the few visual elements that you can have in the podcast. Mm-hmm. And he was like, yeah, just don't change it. He described about how cheap that was to do, how it's a really old picture of himself. He's like, but it works. And now people know what it is. So they look for it. It's got brand recognition. He's like, just don't change it. was what he kind of had to say about that. But yeah, I'm trying to think. There was another woman that spoke on the big stage. Her name was Sophia Amoruso. You know who she is? She did, I think she's a book called something like Lady Boss. And she's, has a very popular clothing line, and she's out in California, and she's a very, very sex appeal kind of look to her. She was really interesting. She was interviewed. I didn't get terribly too much from her talk, but she was, she spoke to the audience. She was very nervous. I think this was an unusual platform for her. She was a little bit uneasy, but she was putting words to it, which.
What was her topic supposed to be?
growing her business. So she, started off very, very small in her garage, and now she's, wildly successful. And I don't really know kind of what her deal is. I forget the name of her company. I'm going to have to look it up really quick right now. But I kind of forget what
grow it on social. Is that why she was there?
Nasty Girl, I guess is her talk. She's the owner of Nasty Girl, which sells clothing, shoes, accessories for young women. It was once called the fastest growing company by Inc. magazine in 2012. So she's out in San Diego. She's only 31. So she's young. She wrote, the book is called #GirlBoss is the name of it. And but I think her being the founder and how, kind of the growing pains of the business, how to hire, what to look for in growing your thing. She's also on social media. She's a very popular Instagram account that's really, really big. And I think she's using that to sell because, again, a visual medium for clothing and those kind of ideas. So she's 23 million was her sales in 2011. So so she's wildly successful. They call her the Cinderella of tech. That's why she's there. So I think she just blew up a business in this sweet spot of social media toward young people. But I didn't know much about her, and she was definitely a little shy, uneasy. Not what you would think by looking at her at the images that you see of her. She looks very kind of edgy and stuff. And she was definitely an introvert and a little shy to see live, but yeah, wow. That was it. Like now, I think that's everybody I saw, but it was fun. It was fun.
Well, thank you. So, did they have sessions on different social media platforms, like?
There's stuff on like YouTube and LinkedIn. There wasn't anything on Instagram. There wasn't anything necessarily on Periscope. I think, I think inbound marketing, they people were, a little bit more, I don't know, technical or more, specific. I think some of the talk titles were really interesting. You can tell that the speakers were really trying to gain attention and get people in the room. So if you kind of glance through what the titles of the talk were.
I saw a video, or the Periscope video, of Mike Stelzner's presentation, and it was like this super advanced analytics presentation. It's like, ooh. I didn't know what he was talking about. I don't know what he was talking about.
Oh, I wish I was there. Yeah, no, it was really cool. And then with those talks that were very popular that people got shut out of, that had really long lines of, they would do encore presentations. So they would somehow try to fit them back in at the end of the day or the next morning or something like that. Some of the folks had to leave because of Search Love. There was a big conference going on in San Diego. There was also a content marketing conference going on in Ohio that a lot of people were you can kind of see them on social media. They were kind of coming between the three conferences. When I talked to my friend Dave at HubSpot, I was like, how do you guys pick these weeks? Like, why is it that all this is happening at once? He's like, Patti, we booked this stuff 2 years in advance. Like, you can't pick that. I guess it's a coincidence, was his point. So much so that next year, this conference is happening in November. Versus, I think, last year it was either August or September. But I think because of the big election year, they can't get into the conference center. So it's already booked, pushed out after the election. So I thought that was interesting. But I thought it was good. There was, obviously the big keynote from HubSpot with the two co-founders, Dharmesh Shah and Brian Halligan. And they're always really entertaining. And, they look like, kind of superstars. I met Brian. He seems really funny, really good guy. And he's kind of written the book on inbound. Although arguably they say Seth Godin is the one that created the term itself.
Okay.
Yeah. But it kind of depends where you look. But yeah, I think HubSpot kind of claims sort of owning it now. They're clearly very good friends with Seth Godin, who keeps coming to speak. This is 2 years in a row he's come to speak. But I mean, Seth Godin put out the book prior to these guys about permission marketing and inbound marketing, and in contrast to disruptive marketing. or interruptive marketing. So I don't know. It's funny if you Wikipedia it, it's kind of they say Seth sort of owned it and HubSpot ran with it, or invented it.
Interesting. Well,
Drama.
Seth is the master.
He's brilliant.
He's amazing that he literally responds to emails personally.
Does he?
I once sent an email to him because I had read a blog post that just really hit home, and I was struggling with copycats. Like everything I did, someone else was copying. Like even like so detailed, to the point where the person who started Network Now with me, I would just forward her the thing without saying a word, and she's like, "Oh my goodness." So anyway, I was having an issue with the copycatting, and I sent something to Seth after talking to Michael also, and I said, Michael said to just do my thing and don't worry about it. And he said, I agree. Michael has good advice, but then he said, make sure your people care about original, because it's so important to me that something is original and creative. She's like, well, is that important to your people? Because so to do like a same as yesterday vanilla networking organization, I would just like shoot myself. So it always had to be creative and original. He's like, well, do your people care? I was like, wow, I don't know. That's a good question. I would assume so. They've been part of this for a long time.
Yeah. Some of this stuff gets a little, speaking of originality, some of this stuff gets a little frustrating if you're following what a lot of these, industry experts and gurus are talking about. You're hearing a lot of the same thing over and over again. You know what I mean? Like everybody's kind of echoing or reading from the same, it's different than what you're saying, but a lot of these gurus are kind of repeating each other and reading from the same, the same book, Well,
people need to
if anybody else,
several times, right?
What is it?
People need to hear things several times until they really get it.
It's true. But if one more person tells me to hustle, or you know what I mean, like there's these buzzwords that I want to, bang my head against the wall, because you want to take the value from a lot of these experts and a lot of these influencers, but when they all start sounding the same, kind of all at once, you're like, all right, knock it off, like, yeah, you know what I'm saying, and yeah. There's a reason these folks are who they are, and there's a reason that they're succeeding. And then at the same time, it just becomes kind of gratuitous. And then you have to realize it's getting a little silly. So I'm kind of, you and I have talked offline about this. I'm kind of waiting for the bubble to burst. I'm kind of waiting for the, kind of credible gurus to kind of separate themselves from the pack, and some of that, so some of the light being shown on some of the nonsense, just, repeaters out there, as opposed to the real original thinkers. But it's a weird time that we're in. It's a very noisy time. It's hard to figure out, who's credible, who's making sense, and who's just repeating everybody else. Right. But right. I gotcha.
So Joanne Brockman is a premium member of Network Now, and she keeps trying to join the seat. I hope you realize you're going to go on camera if I click yes, Joanne. So we'll let you jump in here.
Have I met Joanne?
Well, no. Yes, Joanne.
I think she can do it and just be voiceover. I'm not sure. I think there's a way to do that.
She says no, she doesn't want to come on camera. Well, yes, you do know Joanne. Joanne was in the Jeopardy game.
Oh, Joanne, I love you. She's fantastic. She can get on and just do a voice. I've seen that a bunch of times on these blabs. I think that there's
you can just turn your camera
off. That's exactly right. Yeah. Oh, Joanne, you should join us. Does she have a question?
I think she just keeps clicking that join button because it says join. So she's like, all right, I'm going to click it. She's not sure. All right. So we won't torture Joanne. So Patti Dalessio, reinventinteractive.com, and at SEO Patti to find you. Follow her on Blab by just clicking that little button next to her name. And I'm Jamie Broderick. I'm the founder of Network Now. I'm also a visibility and online branding coach, helping you look like the rock star that you are online. So we are good partners, Patti and I.
Absolutely. Yeah, we should take this international, global.
Global leaders. Absolutely. I'm excited.
There you
All right,
go.
All right. Have a great day.
You too.
See ya.